Jake Sullivan walked slowly down the long hallway that led to the council chamber. His black uniform was clean and pressed. His gray hair was combed back neat. On his chest were many medals from 30 years of service to the Galactic Council. Today would be his last day wearing them. The huge doors to the council chamber opened with a soft hiss. Inside, representatives from 47 different alien species sat in curved rows that went up to the ceiling. The chamber was bigger than most football stadiums back on Earth. The air smelled strange, a mix of different atmospheres that each species needed to breathe. Jake had been in this room hundreds of times before. He had given speeches about human colonies that needed help. He had asked for ships to protect trade routes. He had begged for medicine when plagues hit human worlds. Most of the time, the aliens had said no. They always had excuses. Today was different. Today, Jake was not asking for anything. He walked to the center of the chamber where a small platform waited. His boots made clicking sounds on the smooth metal floor. Every alien eye in the room watched him. Some had 2 eyes like humans. Others had 6 or 8. A few had no eyes at all but could still see somehow. Jake reached inside his jacket and pulled out a white envelope. He placed it on the platform, where everyone could see it. "I am Ambassador Jake Sullivan of Earth," he said. His voice was calm and clear. The translation devices around the room turned his words into 47 different languages. "I have served this council for 37 years. Today, I resign from my position. Humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council effective immediately." The HFY chamber exploded with noise. Aliens jumped up from their seats. Some made clicking sounds with their mouths. Others buzzed like giant insects. A few roared like wild animals. The Speaker of the Council, a tall bug-like creature named Zekthara, hit her desk with a metal rod to call for quiet. "You cannot do this," Zekthara said. Her voice sounded like glass breaking. "Humans have responsibilities to this council. You have signed treaties. You have made promises." "We have kept every promise we made," Jake replied. "We have died in your wars. We have built your space stations. We have protected your ships from pirates. We have given you our best technology. What have you given us in return?" A blue-skinned alien named Velnoth stood up. His body looked like it was made of crystal. Light shone through him when he moved. "Humans benefit from council membership. You have access to our markets. You can travel freely through our space." Jake almost laughed. "We can travel through your space as long as we follow your rules. We can trade in your markets as long as we accept your prices. When human colonies are attacked, you tell us to be patient and wait for a peaceful solution. When your colonies are attacked, you send us to fight and die for you." More aliens started shouting. The noise grew louder. Jake waited for them to get tired of yelling. Behind Jake, Captain Lisa Monroe stood with 5 other human officers. Lisa was younger than Jake, but just as tough. She had commanded human peacekeeping forces in 12 different conflicts. She had saved more alien lives than she could count. Her uniform had almost as many medals as Jake's. "The human evacuation has already begun," Lisa announced. Her voice cut through the noise like a knife. "All human military units are pulling back to our borders. All human civilians are leaving council space. All human trade agreements are canceled." The giant screens around the chamber came to life. They showed human ships throughout the galaxy. Cargo ships loaded with supplies. Warships that had protected council trade routes for decades. Research stations where human scientists had worked to solve alien problems. All of them were moving toward human space. An alien that looked like a walking tree raised his wooden arm. "What about the Kethvar Syndicate? They have been attacking our outer colonies. Only human forces have been able to stop them." "Not our problem anymore," Jake said simply. "But they will conquer everything if humans do not fight them." The tree alien pleaded. "Then you better find another way to stop them." Zekthara's insect eyes glowed red with anger. "This is madness. The council has existed for 2,000 years. We have brought peace to this galaxy." "You have brought peace by making humans do your fighting," Jake shot back. "Every time there is trouble, you call us. Every time we solve your problems, you criticize our methods. You call us violent, you call us primitive, you say we are too quick to use force. But when your people are dying, who do you call? Us. Jake picked up the white envelope and opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. He began to read. To the Galactic Council. After careful consideration, humanity has decided to end its membership in this organization. We have served faithfully for 37 years. We have lost over 2 million human lives protecting Council interests. We have spent trillions of credits helping Council members. In return, we have been treated as useful barbarians. This treatment ends today. The chamber fell silent. Even the translation devices seemed to whisper. Jake continued reading. All human military forces will withdraw from Council space within 72 hours. All human trade agreements are void. All human research projects in Council territory will be abandoned. Humanity will seal its borders. From this day forward, consider Earth and all human colonies to be closed to Council members. Jake folded the paper and put it back in the envelope. He placed the envelope on the platform again. But you cannot survive without the Council, Felnoth said. His crystal body was flickering with worry. You need our resources. You need our technology. We needed your friendship, Jake replied. We offered you ours. You threw it away. Admiral Betty Cross stepped forward. She was the highest-ranking military officer in the chamber. Her gray hair was cut short like a soldier's. Her eyes were hard as steel. In 72 hours, every human ship will be gone, she said. After that, if any Council ship enters human space, it will be destroyed. We are done bleeding for people who hate us for helping them. Jake turned to leave. The other humans followed him. Their footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. Wait, Zekthara called out. We can negotiate. We can find a solution. Jake stopped and looked back. For 37 years, we tried to negotiate. For 37 years, we looked for solutions. You were not interested then. We are not interested now. The humans walked out of the chamber. The massive doors closed behind them with a final click. In the chamber, 47 alien species sat in stunned silence. None of them understood what they had just lost. They would learn soon enough. 6 months had passed since the humans left. Threshka stood in the control room of Nexus Station and watched the red warning lights flash on every screen. The big alien had 4 arms and skin like gray leather. He had been in charge of Council defense for 20 years. He had never seen so many emergency signals at once. Report, he said to his assistant, a young alien named Kayla, whose people looked like tall birds with blue feathers. Kayla's voice shook as she read from her datapad. The Kethvar Syndicate has broken through the Tertian defense line. They destroyed 3 of our patrol ships and captured 2 supply stations. Our forces are asking for backup. Threshka felt sick in his stomach. The Tertian defense line had protected Council space for 50 years. It had never been broken before. How many ships can we send? 17 cruisers and 43 fighters, Kayla replied. Threshka wanted to scream. Before the humans left, they had kept over 200 warships patrolling that area alone. Their ships were fast and their crews were fearless. When pirates or raiders attacked Council territory, human ships would appear within hours. The enemy would run away or be destroyed. Now the Council had to scrape together a few dozen ships to face an enemy that would have run from humans without firing a shot. Sir, Kayla said quietly, should we ask the humans for help? The humans are gone, Threshka snapped. They made it clear they want nothing to do with us. But even as he said it, Threshka remembered the old days. Human Admiral Cross had sat in this same control room many times. She would study the tactical displays and ask sharp questions. Then she would give orders that always seemed to work. Her ships would jump into impossible battles and somehow win. The Council had complained about human tactics. They said humans were too violent, too quick to fight. They passed rules about when humans could use their weapons. They demanded that human commanders ask permission before engaging enemies. The humans had ignored most of those rules when lives were at stake. They saved Council citizens first and dealt with paperwork later. The Council had censured them dozens of times for breaking regulations. Now those same council members were dying, because no one was breaking the rules to save them. Across the HFY galaxy, Trade Commissioner Yuldine was discovering another problem. The short, round alien sat in his office surrounded by shipping reports. Every page showed the same thing: disaster. Yuldine had been tracking galactic trade for 15 years. He thought he understood how goods moved from one star system to another. He was wrong. How did we not see this, he muttered, staring at the numbers. Before humans left, over 3 million tons of cargo moved through council space every day. Now it was less than 1 million tons and falling fast. The humans had not just been another member species. They had been the center of everything. Their huge cargo ships carried goods between alien worlds that had never traded with each other directly. Human factories built parts that went into alien machines. Human farms grew food that fed dozens of different species. When the humans left, they took their ships, their factories, and their farms with them. Trade routes that had existed for decades suddenly stopped working. Alien worlds that depended on human goods found their stores going empty. Yuldine called his assistant, a snake-like alien named Sylvan. "Get me a meeting with the human trade representatives." "Sir," Sylvan replied, "the humans canceled all trade agreements. They are not taking meetings with council members." "Then get me a communication link to Earth." "Sir, the humans have blocked all official council communications." Yuldine threw his datapad across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. For the first time in his career, he had no idea what to do next. On Research Station Kepler, Dr. Nina Walsh was packing the last of her laboratory equipment. The human scientist had worked on the station for 8 years. Her research into quantum field manipulation had led to breakthroughs in medicine, energy production, and space travel. Nina was a small woman with brown hair and tired eyes. She had spent most of her adult life trying to help aliens solve their problems. She had created cures for diseases that killed millions. She had designed engines that made space travel faster and safer. She had taught alien students who went on to become famous scientists themselves. The aliens had never thanked her for any of it. They said her methods were sloppy and dangerous. They criticized her for taking risks and moving too fast. They published papers based on her work but rarely gave her credit. As Nina sealed another box of equipment, the door to her lab opened. Velnoth, the crystal alien from the council, walked in. His body was flickering with different colors, which meant he was upset. "Dr. Walsh," he said, "you cannot leave. Your work is too important." Nina did not look up from her packing. "My work was important 8 years ago. You told me it was worthless then." "We made mistakes," Velnoth admitted. "But the medical applications of your research could save millions of lives. The council is prepared to offer any concessions you want." "Any concessions?" Nina finally looked at him. "How about an apology?" Velnoth's crystal body stopped flickering. In all his years as a diplomat, he had never apologized to a human. His people believed they were superior to younger species like humanity. Saying sorry would mean admitting they were wrong. "The council regrets any misunderstandings," he said carefully. Nina laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Misunderstandings? Is that what you call it when you stole my research and gave the credit to alien scientists? Is that what you call it when you blocked my funding because you said human science was too primitive? Please, Dr. Walsh, many people will die without your work." Nina picked up the last box and walked toward the door. "Many people died while you ignored my work. I guess you will figure out how to save them without me." "Where will you go?" "Back to Earth. We have our own research stations now, better ones. We do not need council approval to save lives anymore." As Nina walked away, Velnoth realized something that made his crystal body go dark. In the past decade, humans had been responsible for 73% of all major scientific breakthroughs in council space. They had solved problems that alien scientists had worked on for centuries. Now those human scientists were gone. The problems remained, but no one was left who knew how to solve them. All across council space, the same pattern was repeating. Systems that had worked for decades were failing. Trade routes were empty. Military defenses were crumbling. Research projects were abandoned. The humans had not just been members of the Galactic Council. They had been the glue that held everything together. Without them, the great galactic civilization was starting to fall apart. And it had only been 6 months since they left. 1 year after the humans left, the Galactic Council was dying. Council President Morgath stood at the head of the Great Chamber and looked at the empty seats. When he had first taken this job, 47 different species had representatives. Here, today only 31 species remained. The others had quit the council and gone home. Morgath was old, even for his kind. His people lived for 300 years and he had seen most of his. His purple skin was wrinkled and his 6 eyes were dim. He had hoped to end his career with the council stronger than ever. Instead, he was watching it fall apart. "We need to talk about the humans," he announced to the remaining delegates. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some aliens clicked their tongues. Others made growling sounds. A few banged their fists on their desks. Speaker Zekthara rose from her seat. The tall, insect-like alien had always hated humans. She thought they were violent and stupid. "We will not crawl back to those savage mammals," she declared. The council existed for 2,000 years before humans ever left their little planet. And in 1 year without them, we have lost 16 worlds, replied General Kexvar. The military commander was a short, thick alien with armor-like skin. "My analysts say we need human help within 6 months, or the Kethavar Syndicate will control everything beyond the core worlds." The mention of the Kethavar made everyone quiet. The Syndicate was a group of pirate species that had been raiding Council territory for decades. When humans were around, the pirates stayed in the dark corners of space. Human patrol ships would hunt them down and destroy them before they could do much damage. Now the pirates had grown bold. They attacked Council worlds openly. They captured trade ships and sold the crews as slaves. They had even started calling themselves an empire instead of just raiders. "How many worlds have they taken this month?" asked Delegate Rintar, whose people looked like walking plants. General Kexvar checked his datapad. 4. They hit the Altarian colony on Kepler 9 2 days ago. 3 million civilians dead. The survivors are begging for evacuation, but we do not have enough ships. "What about our defense fleets?" Rintar asked. "Scattered across too many fronts. The humans used to handle the outer rim patrols with 200 ships. We have 40 ships trying to cover the same area." Delegate Silnoth, a blue-skinned female with gills on her neck, spoke up. "My people are considering withdrawal from the Council. We cannot afford to keep losing colonies while the Council does nothing to protect them." Several other delegates nodded. The Council was supposed to provide security for all member worlds. Without that security, there was no reason to stay in the Council and pay the membership fees. Chief Economist Raltheo stood up slowly. He was a small, gray alien who had been tracking galactic trade for 50 years. "The military situation is bad," he said in his quiet voice. "The economic situation is worse." He activated a holographic display that showed trade routes throughout Council space. Most of the lines were red, meaning they were no longer active. Before the humans left, galactic trade was worth 12 trillion credits per year. This year, we are on track for 4 trillion. By next year, it might be 2 trillion or less. The numbers hit the delegates like a physical blow. Trade was the foundation of galactic civilization. Without it, advanced worlds would run out of resources. Less developed worlds would have no way to buy the technology they needed. "How is this possible?" asked Velnoth, the crystal alien. "Surely other species can fill the gap left by humans." Raltheo's gray face looked even more tired than usual. "No single species can replace what humans did. They were not just traders. They were the hub that connected everyone else. When they left, the entire network collapsed. On Earth, President Sam Turner sat in his office in Washington, D.C., and read the latest intelligence reports from beyond human space. The president was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been in office when the Council crisis started, and he had supported the decision to leave. Secretary of Defense Karen Price stood nearby. She was younger than the president, but just as tough. She had been a general before taking the civilian job. "The Council is sending another request for emergency trade talks," she reported. "What are they offering?" Sam asked. Everything. Full technology sharing, reduced tariffs, even equal voting rights in council decisions. Sam shook his head. Too little, too late. Our colonies are doing better without the council than they ever did as members. It was true. Human worlds that had been poor council members were now thriving independent colonies. Without council regulations and taxes, human trade with non-council species had exploded. Human technology that the council had restricted was now being sold freely to anyone who wanted it. What about the refugee situation? Sam asked. Getting worse every day. 17 different species have asked for sanctuary in human space. The Altarians are especially desperate after losing their homeworld. Sam looked out the window at the city below. As president, his first duty was to protect human citizens, but he also believed in helping people who needed it. Set up refugee camps in the neutral zone. We will provide basic supplies and medical care. But make it clear we are not rejoining the council. Across the galaxy, Admiral Rick Martinez commanded the human Third Fleet from his flagship, the USS Constitution. Rick was a career military officer who had served in council space for 15 years. He had fought in 12 different conflicts, always under council command. Now his fleet patrolled the border between human and council space. Every day, his ships intercepted desperate messages from council worlds under attack. Every day, Rick had to ignore those calls for help. Admiral, said his communications officer, Lieutenant Paula Stevens, we are receiving multiple distress signals from the Zarian system. The Kethvar Syndicate is attacking the civilian population. Rick closed his eyes. He had friends on Zarian, good people who had helped humans during the dark days after the plague outbreak on New Texas. His every instinct told him to jump to hyperspace and save them. Sir? Asked his first officer, Commander Amy Foster. Your orders? Rick opened his eyes and looked at the tactical display. Beyond the border, the space that had once been protected by human ships was now a war zone. Millions of innocent aliens were dying because their leaders had been too proud to treat humans as equals. Signal all ships, Rick said finally. We maintain our patrol pattern. Whatever happens beyond the border is not our responsibility anymore. The words hurt to say, but they were necessary. The council had made its choice 37 years ago when they decided humans were useful, but not worthy of respect. Now they were learning the price of that choice. As Rick watched the distress signals continue to pour in, he wondered if any of the council leaders finally understood what they had lost. Probably not. Even facing destruction, most of them were too proud to admit they had been wrong about humanity. The galaxy was burning, and the only people who could put out the fire were the ones the victims had driven away. 18 months after humanity left the council, Ambassador Trelana stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station called Skygate. The crystal alien had never been this close to the human homeworld before. Through the massive windows, she could see the blue and green planet turning slowly below. Trelana was the most important diplomat in the Altarian Republic. Her people had been founding members of the Galactic Council 2,000 years ago. No Altarian of her rank had ever come to Earth to ask for anything. Today she was here to beg. The station around her was impressive. Human engineering had always been practical rather than beautiful, but Skygate was both. The corridors were wide and clean. The artificial gravity felt natural. Everything worked perfectly. It reminded Trelana of what human space stations in Council territory had been like before the humans left. Secretary of State Helen Baker walked into the meeting room. The human woman was tall and thin with short gray hair. Her face showed no emotion as she sat down across from Trelana. No welcome. No pleasantries, just business. You have 30 minutes, Helen said. Trelana had prepared for this moment for weeks. She had practiced her speech dozens of times. Now, facing this cold human woman, all her careful words seemed meaningless. The Council acknowledges that certain oversights occurred in our previous relationship with humanity, Trelana began. Helen's eyes turned even colder. Oversights? Is that what you call the Xenios incident, where Council forces watched human civilians die rather than risk their own ships? Or maybe the Rigel trade wars where you used human blood to secure your economic interests, then voted to deny us the trade benefits we had earned. Trelana's crystal body dimmed. She had hoped the humans might have forgotten those old wounds. She was wrong. Humans, she realized, remembered everything. Those were complex situations, she said weakly. They were betrayals, Helen replied. For 37 years, humans died protecting Council interests. Every time we succeeded, you found reasons to deny us the rewards. Every time we failed, you blamed us for being too aggressive. Trelana tried a different approach. What would it take for humanity to consider returning to the Council? Helen stood up. The meeting was over. Nothing you can offer. We have moved on. As Trelana left Earth empty-handed, she realized the depth of human anger. It was not the hot fury that burned bright and faded quickly. It was the cold anger of people who had been betrayed too many times to forgive. Back on Station Prime, the remaining Council leaders faced harsh reality. Military Commander Kexvar stood before a room that had once held representatives from 47 species. Now, only 28 species remained. The Kethvar Syndicate controls 18 former Council worlds, Kexvar reported. They have captured the Nexus Trade Hub. 3 more species have withdrawn from the Council this month. The news got worse with each sentence. Without human intervention, we will lose the core worlds within the year. Their tactical knowledge, their technology, their willingness to fight impossible battles. We have no replacement for what they brought to our defense. The irony was bitter. For decades, Council members had criticized human military tactics. They said humans were too violent, too quick to shoot first and ask questions later. They had passed laws requiring humans to follow Council rules of engagement, which meant talking to enemies before fighting them. Humans had ignored those rules when civilian lives were in danger. They saved people first and dealt with paperwork later. The Council had punished them dozens of times for breaking regulations. Now, without human protection, entire civilizations were falling to the Syndicate. The enemy did not want to talk. They wanted to conquer and enslave. Council forces that followed the proper rules were dying while they waited for permission to fight back. On Mars, Dr. Alex Bennett sat in his laboratory and listened to desperate messages from former colleagues. Alex was a medical researcher who had worked on Council projects for 20 years. He had helped develop cures for alien diseases and treatments for conditions that affected multiple species. They want us to send just a few scientists back, Alex told his wife, Dr. Monica Reed, over dinner. The plague on Zarian 4 could be stopped with our biosynthesis technology. Monica shook her head. Let them figure it out themselves. They spent years telling us our methods were primitive and dangerous. Alex remembered those insults well. Council scientists had published papers using human research but claimed the work was their own. They said human medicine was too crude for advanced species. They blocked human researchers from attending major conferences. Dr. Stevens from the Altarian Medical Institute sent me a personal message, Alex continued. He said they were wrong about human science. He wants to apologize. Too late for apologies, Monica replied. How many people died while they ignored our research because it came from humans? The couple continued their work in peace. Their new laboratory on Mars was better equipped than anything they had access to in Council space. Without Council regulations holding them back, they had made more progress in 18 months than they had in 20 years as Council members. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, human intelligence networks tracked the Council's collapse. Captain Bobby Chen commanded a spy ship that monitored communications in the former Council territory. What his team heard was not encouraging. The Kethvar are moving faster than expected, Chen reported to his superiors. They have taken the Altarian homeworld. The survivors are scattered across 17 different refugee ships. Any requests for assistance? Asked his intelligence officer, Lieutenant Sarah Murphy. Hundreds of them. The Altarians are begging any human ship to respond to their distress calls. Chen felt sick. The Altarians had been among the worst when it came to treating humans badly, but their civilians did not deserve to die for their government's mistakes. On Earth, President Sam Turner faced the same dilemma. Intelligence reports showed refugee ships fleeing from syndicate attacks throughout former Council space. Many of these refugees had called humans friends before politics got in the way. The military wants to know our position on humanitarian assistance, Defense Secretary Karen Price reported. We could establish safe corridors for refugee ships without directly confronting the syndicate. What about the Council government? Sam asked. Are they still refusing to admit they were wrong about us? Most of them, yes. Speaker Zekthara gave a speech yesterday calling humans violent primitives who abandoned civilization in its hour of need. Sam laughed, but there was no humor in it. Even facing extinction, they still think we are the problem. The president made his decision. We help individual refugees, but we make it clear we are not helping the council. Anyone who wants our protection has to renounce council membership and accept human authority in the refugee zones. It was a reasonable offer, but Sam knew most council species would reject it. Their pride was more important than their survival. They would rather die as council members than live under human protection. Across human space, the debate continued. Military officers who had served alongside alien colleagues wanted to help. Civilians who remembered council insults wanted to stay away. Politicians tried to balance humanitarian concerns with the need to protect human interests. In the end, humanity chose to be true to their nature. They would help those who asked for it, but they would not save those who still considered them inferior. The galaxy had made its choice about humans long ago. Now humans were making their choice about the galaxy. The council had called them violent barbarians for 37 years. Now they would see what the galaxy looked like when the barbarians were not there to protect civilization. 2.5 years after humanity walked away, the Galactic Council held its final meeting. Council President Morgath stood in the Great Chamber and looked at the 12 remaining delegates. The massive room that had once been filled with representatives from 47 species now felt like a tomb. Most of the seats were empty. The air recycling systems made lonely humming sounds in the silence. The Kethvar Syndicate demands our complete surrender within 7 days, Morgath announced. His voice echoed off the empty walls. Without outside help, we have no choice but to accept their terms. The remaining delegates sat in stunned silence. The proud Galactic Council that had ruled this part of space for 2,000 years was about to become history. Speaker Zekthara looked older than her years. Her insect-like body was covered in scars from recent battles. One of her arms was missing, lost when Syndicate raiders attacked her homeworld. But even facing defeat, she could not let go of her pride. Perhaps if we offered Earth complete control of Council military forces, she said slowly, full access to our technology, even recognition as the dominant species in the Alliance. General Kexvar shook his head. It is too late for deals. Earth knows exactly how desperate we are. They also know we still have not learned our lesson. He was right. Even now, most council members still called humans barbarians behind closed doors. They had learned to fear human absence, but not to respect human presence. They wanted human help without admitting humans had been right all along. On Earth, President Sam Turner held his final cabinet meeting about the council situation. The crisis was almost over. Soon there would be no council left to worry about. 17 million. Civilians are fleeing council space, one reported UN Refugee Coordinator Julie Martinez. They are asking for protection in human territory. What is our response? Sam asked. Secretary of Defense Karen Price leaned forward. The military suggests we set up refugee camps in the neutral zone. It keeps them away from our colonies, but provides basic help. Make it happen, Sam agreed. But I want it clear we are helping them as people in need, not as council members. It was typical of humanity. They would help individuals who needed it while refusing to save the system that had created the crisis. Humans had always cared more about people than politics. Admiral Rick Martinez commanded the Third Fleet from his flagship, the USS Constitution. His ships patrolled the border between human space and what used to be Council territory. Every day brought new reports of Syndicate victories and civilian massacres. Admiral, said Communications Officer Lieutenant Paula Stevens, there is something you need to hear. She played a transmission from the last Altarian refugee ship escaping their homeworld. The message was directed to any human vessel that might be listening. To our former human colleagues, the broadcast began, we finally understand what we lost when you left. Your courage, your innovation, your refusal to abandon others in need. These were not primitive traits, but the highest qualities of civilization. We are sorry it took our destruction to teach us this truth. Rick listened in silence. Around him, his bridge crew struggled with their emotions. Many of them had served alongside these same aliens in the old days. They had been friends before politics destroyed everything. "Sir?" Commander Amy Foster asked quietly. "Your orders?" Rick looked at the tactical display. Beyond the human border, the space that had once been the mighty Galactic Council was now a war zone. Millions of innocent people were dying because their leaders had been too proud to treat humans as equals. "Signal the fleet," he said finally. "We maintain humanitarian corridors for refugees, but our borders stay closed to any government that wants to use us again." The transmission ended, but Rick kept thinking about it. The Altarians had finally learned the truth, but they had learned it too late. Their civilization was gone. There, people were scattered across the galaxy as refugees. Captain Steve Wilson monitored communications from his scout ship at the edge of human space. His job was to watch for threats that might endanger human colonies. What he saw instead was the death of galactic civilization. "The Syndicate has captured Station Prime," he reported to Fleet Command. "The Council government has officially surrendered. They are dissolving all remaining treaties and abandoning their territory." It was over. The organization that had dominated this region of space for 2 millennia had ceased to exist. On Mars, Dr. Alex Bennett watched news reports of the Council's final collapse. Part of him felt sorry for his former colleagues. Another part of him remembered all the times they had insulted human science and stolen human research. They could have had everything, he told his wife Monica. Human protection, human technology, human friendship. All they had to do was treat us like equals. Monica nodded. Instead, they chose to see us as useful animals. Now they know what the galaxy looks like without us. Across human space, the reaction was mixed. Some people felt sad watching an ancient civilization die. Others felt vindicated after decades of being treated badly. Most people felt both emotions at the same time. President Sam Turner addressed the nation from the White House. "Today marks the end of the Galactic Council," he said. "We did not choose this outcome. We offered our friendship and received contempt in return. We offered our protection and were called barbarians for providing it." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "Humanity has learned a hard lesson. We cannot save people who do not want to be saved. We cannot help those who see our help as weakness. From now on, we will be more careful about who we call friends." The speech was broadcast throughout human space and beyond. Refugee ships fleeing. The Syndicate received the message. Some alien survivors finally understood what their leaders had thrown away. A year later, Admiral Rick Martinez stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched human construction crews building a new space station. The station would serve as a processing center for refugees who wanted to start new lives in human space. "How many applications do we have?" he asked his aide, Lieutenant Tony Garcia. "Over 2 million, Garcia replied. "Mostly individuals and families. A few small groups. Everyone has to renounce their old government and swear loyalty to human law." "Any problems with that requirement?" "Not really. Most of them say they should have done it years ago." Rick nodded. The galaxy was changing. The old council was gone, replaced by syndicate tyranny in some areas and human-protected zones in others. Independent species that had stayed out of council politics were now reaching out to Earth for trade agreements and defense pacts. Humanity had not tried to build a new empire. They had simply created a space where people could live safely if they followed human rules. Those rules were simple: work hard, treat others fairly, and do not start fights you cannot finish. It was not the galaxy anyone had expected, but it was the galaxy that remained. The council had chosen pride over wisdom. politics over people, and ancient prejudices over new friendships. Humanity had chosen to walk away rather than continue being used and insulted. That choice had doomed the Council, but it had also freed humanity to build something better. The price of hubris had been paid in full.